What's up, NBA fans? I know I haven't dropped a podcast episode in a while. It's been stressful. It's been a stressful time for me. I dropped those first two videos, and then I worked on a couple more videos, but after that, my MacBook went out. There was something there. I still have no idea what's wrong with my MacBook. It just, I know that it won't turn on, and that whenever I plug it in, it won't work. But I ended up getting an iPad, and so that's how I've been getting, the writing parts for the podcast to get done. But I'm changing my whole style. We're definitely not doing the whole 2K thing, as we see 2K is not really what it used to be, and it'll probably get better as we come on the next gen consoles like the PS5, and that's what people aren't realizing is the PS5's coming out. So 2K and the PS5 is probably doing a whole bunch, like they're probably collaborating together and how they can make that game better, because if not, there's going to be a lot of people who do this for YouTube or who do this for their jobs and stuff who are going to be probably hitting a decrease in their career or whatever it is that they do, whether it's for YouTube or for Twitch, things like that, just because we see now that there's not a real interest in the 2K community anymore. It's kind of like getting the same game every year. But regardless of that, we're going to transition into some basketball topics. This is how I'm going to be doing the podcast from now on. It's going to be a more face-to-face, so you guys can get more interaction. I know on the podcast, you guys probably haven't seen much of my face on it. For those who know me, like, you guys obviously know who I am, but if there's anybody who watches the podcast who I haven't met, or who isn't in the community, or who isn't in the same town that I live in, and they're just fans through other parts of the cities, it's for more things like that, so you guys can see who I am, more of a journalist rather than somebody just talking and playing video games. And I'm not really even much of a video game person, if we're being honest. But to transition into the talks, there's a lot of stuff in the NBA right now. It's crazy that we're seeing LeBron in his 17th year. He's still getting talked about every day. It's like the same thing every year. It's like year 16, year 15, year 14. It's like the same thing every year we see. And it's like, oh, who do we know that's been doing this for this amount of long time? So that's interesting to see. The Lakers are doing a lot better this year. They're in a way better position than they were last year. And it's actually kind of crazy because the team's different, but from what you looked at it last year, but going into the season, I know people were not thinking that just with Anthony Davis and LeBron that the Lakers were going to be able to step up this big and be this consistent. And I know we've had other things like Rondo stepped up big, Kuzma has stepped up big, but for the most part in this season, our core guys are LeBron and AD. That's as simple as you can put it. Without those two guys, the Lakers aren't going to be talked about as much as they are. But seeing Kuzma go ahead and drop what it was, 36 points, I think, the other night against OKC, not even a bad OKC team, might I mention. That's another thing that we need to talk about too in the podcast is OKC actually finding a way to survive despite losing Westbrook and Paul George, and acquiring an older Chris Paul, who a lot of people thought coming into this year that he wasn't going to be able to play nearly as good as he's playing. I'm pretty sure he's averaging about 27 points, which is really talk about LeBron and how his longevity has been doing. Chris Paul's up there too as well. We don't talk about still how great Chris Paul is and how much of a value he is to that Thunder team, because it all starts with him. He's the leader of that team. He's the guy that you count on. He's their star player and things of that nature. But OKC they beat Houston just the game before they played the Lakers. That's why I think it was a really interesting matchup, because the Thunder are not as bad as we thought they were coming into the season. And I want to talk about how great that is for a franchise, because there hasn't been a lot of seasons for the Thunder where they've necessarily been a losing team, or they've been a team that's out of the playoffs and a team that's rather considered rebuilding. We thought this was going to be their rebuilding year. I remember coming into the season, we were there's a lot of jokes being made about the Thunder because all they really had to look forward to is Chris Paul and the draft picks they had, but it wasn't going to look like it was going to be an interesting season at all, even as far as their jerseys go. I remember a lot of people were giving them heat for that, talking about how Damian Lillard messed them up so bad that they had to change their whole get-up and everything. But to see them, they're actually doing better than Portland, which is, when we look at it, that's things that we wouldn't have predicted coming into this year. As we looked at them last year when the playoffs were happening, there was a lot of things. Westbrook, I know, got the shitty end of that bargain. But also what's coming up soon is, I think it's this Thursday, I think Zion will be looking to make his season debut, and that's going to bring in a lot of anticipation for the league because of the simple fact that we haven't seen him play, and he was the most talked about rookie coming into this draft. And now there's not really a lot of talk about rookies I see this year. Like, we have Ja Morant, who's doing great of that nature. RJ Barrett's still doing a couple things for the Knicks. And, we were really looking at the rookies coming into the year. It was all focused on Zion. So now that he's coming back from injury. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens. How are they going to play him? How are they going to use him? And things of that nature. It's going to be really interesting to see, because with that time off, I'm pretty sure he's had to gain a little bit of weight. Maybe not, maybe he hasn't. But the ideal, what we would think, is that he would gain weight without, being on the floor, on the NBA floor. But things that we have to look out for, of course. You can't judge it off of one game. We're gonna have to wait and see over the course of the season how things prevail. Really, the only question mark we can have on Zion is his health, because of his size and how he plays. That's gonna be the only question mark, because his talent level, his size, his athleticism, his everything, there's no question marks when it comes to his actual game. Maybe the 3-point shooting, if you want to really throw that in there, but it's like, a shot is something that you could develop, and with his work ethic and with all the things of that nature. And if you look at his form, it doesn't look like he has an ugly form necessarily. It's just generally we don't see big men being able to shoot, and it's always the thing that people are going to attack. When you see a guy who's big, athletic, and things like that, they're going to be like, okay, but can he shoot? And that's just the day that we live in. But that's wrapping it up for the little bit of the podcast today. I'm not going to be doing like hour-long sessions for these. They're just going to be like 5-10 minute videos. It's a little quick opinion on what I feel about what's going on in the NBA. There's still more things to talk about. I'm not to exclude all the things that we want to talk about that are different, but they're going to be talked about later to come. This was just me trying to see how I feel with the whole face-to-face interaction thing, or the whole recording myself talk. I'm actually feeling a lot more comfortable with this route than I was with the whole video game, or with the whole 2K route. And that was also a frustrating process. It wasn't what I would hoped it to be, and that was really a real reason why I would lag on videos, is because it's just straight truth. I wasn't really enjoying it as much as I thought it would. But I appreciate the love and support that I've gotten for the podcast. I'm going to be continuing it as long as I can. Especially with how the season's going this year. It's just a matter of when can I make videos, and what is there really going on in the league to talk about. But Zion is coming up, so I'm going to be watching that game closely, just because it's a new era. We have players retiring, going, and we're welcoming in a new generation of players. So it's really interesting to watch. So that's the Stowe Podcast, signing out.